Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
And I'm Bergie.
And much like I hinted in the previous episode that we would be talking about prejudices today, which was a seed planted in my head by him when we were sitting at work talking.
Because I think it's something that's controlled by the media. All this shit's pushed in our face. And yeah, that's basically focused around race, I guess. Because you can't read a news article these days without seeing the race of the person in like the first sentence.
Soccer!
Unarmed man, comma, who was black, comma, shot by police. And it's just, why it should just be man shot by police.
Should be.
And you know, the prejudices, like, my thing is the first impression thing. You know, if someone comes up to me in a business suit, regardless of race, I'm going to treat them different than if someone came up to me in pants sagging around their knees and a shirt that's 6 sizes too big. And I think that's normal across the board. So I guess my initial reason for bringing this up would be, are those prejudices implemented by police officers when they're doing stops?
Why?
Should they be? I don't know. I would like to think that it's not because of race, but I don't know. I for one, can't say that that's beyond my control. Like, treating people different based on my first impression and first opinion of them. I would like to say that I treat everyone the same, but I honestly don't think anyone out there can say that.
Well, it's not just solely guided by appearance. You know, where we work, we might meet some inmate for the first time, and they're just cocking off at the mouth and they're angry. Now, we don't know that this is an eloquent, college-educated individual, perhaps, but because they're pitching a hissy fit, we instantly go into defense mode. And that's the first impression. And we have that prejudice to think that a lot of people that come there are going to be ill-tempered, possibly mentally ill, undereducated. They're going to curse like crazy. It seems to be the norm. No. It says nothing about the content of their character, but it's more or less the presentation has conditioned our brains to think, oh, good, another sloppy-mouthed jail dummy.
But I mean, but we deal with that on a fairly regular basis. And I can't really say that there's one type of person that really is constant. You know, we're dealing with different people every day, and they're all providing different experiences and different backgrounds and all that stuff, and we can't generalize the way they act by the way they look, and I get that, but I don't know.
Some of these people too, they're one way on day one, and then you kind of just have a sit down, come to Jesus with them, and then from then on they're a totally different person, which is to say their real selves, because of the stress involved with incarceration, all the unknowns, all the change. Maybe you lived an unstructured life and you've got nothing but routine. You've got rules you're not used to. You pretty much have to ask permission to piss and shit certain times of the day.
Yeah.
As far as race itself goes, this coming from a story I read off of Yahoo last year, the focus on race in America is almost an exclusively American problem.
Absolutely.
People that come and visit New York City, what they did is they questioned a bunch of visitors to the Statue of Liberty. And they were people of multiple nationalities. And the frequent thing they found, and this was predominantly Scandinavian people making this point, is, I can't believe how much you people talk about race here. But I got to think it's Scandinavia. It's predominantly white anyway.
Sure. It
might be different if you're at certain parts of Russia because you're bordering all these different countries, including China. Or if you're in Egypt and you've got a mixture of black African and Arab people together, and it's probably not that white. Whereas the bottom of the continent, South Africa, you know, despite the fact that they were separated through apartheid, is predominantly white there. The main bulk of Africa is black. The main bulk of Western Europe is white. But because America is such a melting pot, we have everything here. And it's everything all the time. Good luck going anywhere in this country, even in like ritzy gated communities, where it's exclusively white.
Yeah, that's true. That is true, and you know that's not a bad thing. That's great. That's cool. That's what our nation is founded upon. And that's what, you know, all men created equal. All that stuff. I get it. That's great.
Unfortunately, at the time they meant all white men created
That's true.
equal.
That's very true. But it's one of those things that I promote. You know, I don't treat someone different just based on the color of their skin. But you know, if you come up to me, who was it? Dave Chappelle said at the
Chris Rock had a bit
Chris
in his
Rock.
Bigger, Blacker tour. We're talking about there's black people and then there's niggas.
Yeah, and same for white people. You know, there's white people and then there's trailer trash.
Yeah.
And I think that's more of like a stereotypical generalization of people. And you know, I was watching a video today of this black man who seemed very educated talking about this Black Lives Matter movement. And he was talking about all of the African Americans committing black on black crime and all this stuff, and how you're chanting Black Lives Matter. Why aren't you protecting each other from yourselves?
That's been the point that I've been trying to hammer home with them. So that, unfortunately, if you challenge any of the ideals of Black Lives Matter, their go-to strategy is to label you a racist.
A racist, yeah.
Which is not fair, because I'm picking apart your argument from the standpoint that you're up in arms about other people killing you, but you don't talk about that you guys are killing yourselves off in record numbers. And accountability. Yeah. I've said it so many times in different episodes now. Accountability in the black community for each other.
Yeah. But and this gentleman goes on to say that he doesn't blame white people for having these prejudices. He says, you know, if I was a white person, I would treat black people just like snakes. He said, I know some of them are poisonous, some aren't. Some will hurt me, some won't, but I'm going to fucking stay away from all of them. And I guess I kind of see that.
It's an interesting analogy.
I thought it was great, and not saying that I am going to do that or do right. that, but he totally brought it to a sense of, yeah, you know what? I guess I get it. If you think these people are so hostile, this specific group, regardless of race, if you think they are hostile, you're going to treat anyone who looks like them, who acts like them, as hostile, right? That makes sense. That makes total sense. I'm not saying it's right. But you got to fucking fix yourself if you don't want to be treated different.
That's a
right?
deep-seated mindset that although people say we're the most divided we've ever been now, I challenge that with how America was in the early industrializing period. Think back to when Ellis Island was bringing in hundreds to thousands of people a day. Most of the people lived on the eastern seaboard, but what did they do immediately when they came to the melting pot? Throwing up air quotes. America, the melting pot.
Well, they were kind of segregated.
They stuck to themselves. There were Italian neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. There were Irish neighborhoods. There were Russian neighborhoods. There were black neighborhoods. Everybody stuck to their own. And that was more or less to protect themselves in a new place, so there was a sense of community amongst the unknown. It's still like that now.
Yeah.
And I've noticed this. We have all races where we work. I will say that there's a pretty firm divide in the group of blacks that we get, whereas half of them absolutely cannot stand authority and stick to their own, and they don't trust any white people, and they only hang with the other black inmates. The rest, and it's mainly the older ones, the more mature ones that understand that it's not us versus them. I didn't make you commit the crime. I didn't arrest you. I didn't sentence you. I'm just your babysitter. They get that, and they know that if they follow the rules, they won't get in trouble. They can hang with anybody there because they keep it respectful.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I don't know if they just understand it. You know, they were maybe... It is generally the older black men who were very respectful. They're just like, yeah, you know, I fucked up just like anyone else would. Sure, they might have their good and bad days just like everyone else, but for majority, yeah, they don't segregate themselves. But this younger generation tend to have problem with authority.
It's a generational gap, and I attribute it, I think, to this. The age group we're talking, 30 and 40-year-old black men, mm-hmm. even some of the low 50-year-old black men, their parents were involved in the civil rights movement.
Yep.
They're the first generation removed from segregation. Their parents have told them about how life was. They saw how it got better. They lived how it got even better yet, and then they had kids. But now this new generation, all they've ever known is freedom and everybody's included. which is fine. I'm not saying we need to like resegregate.
Right. No, absolutely
but
not.
they almost take all of this comfort and normalcy to wide acceptance of everybody commingling for granted.
And you said you don't think we need to segregate, and I don't either. But the fact is, they're doing it to themselves.
Yeah,
they're labeling themselves as a specific group of people who have this goal of doing something to another group of people, and it's the whole "we need to come together" thing. I don't know. I don't think it's ever going to happen. But
it's influencing their behavior now. And like the topic of tonight is prejudices. It's not just like white cops going looking for black guys committing crimes, although, as I've stated, black people commit a disproportionate amount of crime to their segment of the population.
And I have those. I actually was looking those up before I came over today, and I have those stats. So, like I was kind of mentioned earlier, are those prejudices implied when cops are pulling people over, and should they be? Like, I get that it shouldn't be based on race, but when, these are straight from Huffington Post, who reported these off of the FBI website. 13% of the United States population, black. 64% are white. Blacks make up 40% of the prison population, and whites 39%. So, I mean, there's roughly 50-50 down the middle as far as prison populations, but
if you ask white people or people that are thinking logically, they will say it's because blacks are committing more crimes. If you ask blacks and people that think emotionally, they will say that the system is targeting blacks.
Correct.
And I disagree.
Yeah. And that's their argument too. And this is straight from FBI. The FBI website, and I'll get into the whole younger generation creating problems again, right? Okay, so of murder total 8,506 total. Murder of the white population 4,101. Of the black population 4,203. Now, what makes that crazy is that's going off the total population of, again, white and black. Blacks and whites are committing the same amount of murders, yet the black population is a third of the white population. So for every one black guy, or for every one white guy you got going and shooting people, you got 3 African Americans. Now, there was a...
If we're talking 64% versus 13, 64 divides into 4 16s. So we're talking the black population is less than a quarter of the white population, and they're committing the same amount of murders. Fucking A.
And there was, I didn't snap a picture of it because the internet's so shitty, but so
blame my basement.
One of the stats was whites on blacks, blacks on whites crimes, and I mean the black on black crime was crazy, which brings up our other topic. Was you're saying Black Lives Matter, but the black community is killing other members of the black community, and that was very, very similar to whites. Whites kill each other. So when you're saying that white people are killing black people, regardless of cops or not, it's totally false. White people need to stop killing white people, and black people need to stop killing each other. Right? That makes sense to me.
I would say that Americans need to stop killing each other.
People just need to stop.
Then I can take away that divide where they're focusing so much on race.
Right.
You said that there was something in there about the age group difference.
The age group difference. So that was total, right? That is total. Now we will go to the juvenile statistics, right? So this is under the age of 18, right? Now, it's for blacks and whites, it is very, very similar as far as the total number of murders, forcible rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, all that stuff. Very, very comparable. Again, whites outnumber blacks. This case, it's about 50%. Okay, so of total of whites involved in all these crimes are 653,949. Black population is 322,602. So roughly about half, right?
That number's the number incarcerated you're talking.
These are the people charged with these crimes, I guess, under the age of 18, okay? The thing that I found interesting, besides the fact that, they're roughly the same, robbery of whites, 4,880. Blacks, 11,190.
Jesus. It's almost 3 times as many.
So numbers are about the same. Murders for underaged. Whites, 264. Blacks, 284. Forcible rape, whites. Now, this is the white population is 1,217, blacks 655. So that number reflects about, what we're seeing in the total number of whites versus blacks is about whites outnumber blacks in this situation about 2 to 1. But everything else down the board is breaking even. So the African American community was committed more of these crimes. And again, you bring up that argument of, is the police community, I don't know, targeting or profiling them because of their race? I can't tell you because I wasn't on every single one of these traffic stops. I would like to say, of course not. Of course not.
Well, that's the thing. Last episode, I said we need to stop using the word profiling as a negative connotation. Because if you're looking for a suspect, you're using statistical information, physical characteristics that fit the profile of the assailant. Targeting. They should stop using profiling and start using targeting. Because that's what they're saying, right? Well, the cops are going after black. Well, then they're targeting blacks. They're not profiling you. You might fit a profile, and they have to ask you, or maybe they're going to talk to 5 people that all look the same. That's why a lineup doesn't consist of 2 people. It's anywhere from 4 to 8 to sometimes 10 people when they're trying to finger an assailant. Giggity.
Giggity!
Now this information is coming from the FBI, NCR, the UCR, the Uniform Crime Report or the National Crime Report?
Uniform Crime Report.
These are strictly violent crime statistics. That's what we deal in mostly at work is if you're drinking and driving, you're not on there. If you're getting caught with drugs, you're not on there. They consider that technically a victimless crime because you're getting caught with a substance that you had. In terms of people of color or blacks, assuming that the cops are targeting them, it goes both ways. And I don't think that they are acknowledging that. Like, they're calling out white people for being racist, and they're talking about white privilege, and they're talking about uneven standards and how we're oppressing them and how they're being targeted by law enforcement. But what about the fact that you see someone in uniform and you automatically think, I don't talk to the police. They're my enemy. And say it's a black cop. Well, they pretty much fucking call them an Uncle Tom. They're a traitor.
Oh, absolutely. And, if we do ever end up getting my wife in here, who is a police officer, she'll tell you straight up that she doesn't deal with one race more than another. She doesn't have problems with one more than another, but it's just a matter of some people just treat her with extreme prejudice, whether or not they're black or white. But it's that whole initially just judging them, thinking that you're going to get thrown into jail, you're going to get shot. Blacks and whites do it to her on a regular basis. They just assume she's there to ruin their day. And she has never once left the house saying, God, I hope I bust someone's face in today, or God, I hope I shoot someone today.
Well, I don't go to work saying, man, never. I hope I can catch some inmate with some contraband.
Right, never.
If there's contraband, we raise the alarm and we look for it. But I'm not going in there every day looking to write violations and get people in trouble and cost them good time days or screw them out of their visit with their kids. Because, as the mantra sometimes goes, happy inmate, happy workplace.
Right, exactly. And, it goes both ways. If you're letting them walk all over you, then there's issues. But you've just got to have that mutual respect, and everyone just needs to treat each other like human beings. Same race, different race. Just we're all human beings. We're on this world together. Fuck, I don't want to bring kids into this world. If this world keeps going down this shitty path, I don't know.
I didn't want to. As far back as high school, I said I didn't want kids. Based upon how fucked up the world was, and I thought it would be unfair to bring children into a society that's this chaotic, that feeds on itself in a world full of terror. I mean, this is before 9/11, because I graduated in 2000. And I thought it was that fucked up then. Now, obviously, oops, and then oops again. But now I try to, race doesn't really come up much. However, I will say this. We go to the playground, any playground. The Juice, my 5-year-old, sees a black girl. She immediately asks if it's her friend from school. She's like, no. I'm like, that not every black girl is your friend from class. All right? There's lots of black people. But that's not that she thinks all black people look alike. She doesn't know very many black people.
Yeah.
And she only sees like the hair is similar, or the skin tone is similar. I wouldn't call it a prejudice. It's just she's looking for something familiar, and she ticks off this, that, or the other characteristic, and it reminds her that it could be her friend. And I wrote this morning when I came home. I thought about the conversation we had last night some, and why people have prejudices, or why people automatically try to clump people into categories or figure them out. Right? I think we have an inherent psychological need to classify the unknown into categories or with terms we're familiar with for the sake of comfort, and like a subconscious coping mechanism. It makes the strange or the unknown less frightening. Human beings desire control. Control equals comfort. Comfort eases an unquiet mind, making even the oddest new dish palatable.
Sure.
You don't know somebody, you don't know a neighborhood, you don't know these people. You stick with your own, you stick with what you know, because the unknown scares us.
Mm-hmm.
It brings about rational fear. But as soon as you get to know somebody, it's no longer rational fear, it's comfort. Right. So in terms of like, oh, all black people must be like this, what if you've only had experiences with black people that are negative? Or if you've only had positive? Say you are rich and you work with some people of color who are also Latino, a bunch of different races, but they are all like you. White collar, business class, they make good money, your kids go to private school. Suddenly you're somewhere and you meet like a group of kids. I'm not even saying what race, a group of kids. And they are total pieces of shit, and it scares the fuck out of you because they don't respect the rules of who you are and what you've accomplished and how you broke your back to get there. All they see is some rich person, and they're going to steal your wallet because they want to buy booze, drugs, food, candy, a phone, who knows. So you stick with other people you know. It's a shock to the system when you meet people that are completely different from you. Yeah, we're all human beings, but that doesn't take away from the unease that being in a completely new experience. Think about how you are when you first get a new job.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You're not yourself, like cranked all the way up to 10.
Yeah.
I try to be, which is very dangerous to do, to go right into a workplace and just be me. But I have to, so people, like, if I kept to myself and when I got a new job, they said, oh, he's kind of quiet. He doesn't open up much. He doesn't talk. Maybe we should invite him out. And then I went out with those people and then I gave them the full me. They'd be on sensory overload.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like right into the deep end. Hey, here's who I am. Here's what I'm about. I find these deplorable things funny, and there's pretty much nothing you could say that would shock me. However, certain things still offend me. Some of my more conservative ideals about the way that, as I guess misogynistic as this may sound, or pig-headed as this may sound, I find it weird when women talk about explicit sex stuff. Like, I almost want them to talk like ladies.
Sure.
Like, don't talk. Let's not sit around at work and you talk about how much you like to suck dick.
That makes sense.
But you and I might sit behind closed doors and joke about, like, for instance, pornography, as we did recently, and the phenomenon of cock slapping faces.
Yep. And I mean, that's just, I don't know, maybe this is just the guy thing, just the smoking and joking kind of.
It isn't. It doesn't have to be.
No.
Because women talk like that amongst each other, but then they don't really talk like it around guys, because then what do we think?
Right. That's what you want right now.
Or you're slutty.
Right.
And then you get the feminists like, don't slut shame. You know, when did it become a crime socially? When did it become taboo and wrong to tell a woman that's been with like 80 guys that she should maybe put the dick down and pick up a book?
Yeah.
Don't slut shame her.
Feminist group, that's a whole nother fucking story. I mean, it's just these people who are demanding to be heard and demanding that their demands be met or agreed upon, and it's just like the religious factor. I don't care whatever you do, whatever you got going on, whatever you do on Sunday, whatever you do on Wednesday, fucking any time of the day, just don't come knocking on my door and ask me if I want to do it with you.
Yeah, don't push it on me.
I don't give two shits. But if you're going to sit there and push it on me, I'm going to not like you. I'm going to not like what you're representing. And I think that's the same thing with the Black Lives Matter movements and these feminist movements, as they're sitting there and they're force-feeding us all this stuff, and they're making these demands that just make me want to say fuck you and fuck everyone associated with you.
That's by force, not by committee.
Right. And
we're democracy drunk in this country, so we're not used to having things forced upon us.
Right.
Because we're supposed to accept all ideals, and we have freedom of speech. Yep. But they're just trying to hammer a square peg in a round hole and say, fucking deal with it.
Right.
But it doesn't work that way.
It's going to fit. It's going to fit, or you're going to make it fit.
Well, see, that's the thing. You can't come in here and demand diversity. You can say we want diversity, there should be diversity, but that doesn't mean that I should go, okay, well, fuck, we got too many white cops. You 5 guys are fired. Get some blacks in here. Give them a gun and a badge. I guess we don't have enough blacks.
Well, when my wife went through the academy process, she was pretty much told she was hired because she's a female. Like that, her entire academy, a class of like 20-ish, there was females and minorities. There were 2 white guys. I get that looks good and that's props to them, but I'm sure there were, if you're just going based on requirements and how well you can do your job, do you really want to put someone higher than someone who could do that job better just based on their skin color or their ethnic background?
You don't.
Fuck no.
Wrong! Try again, dumbass!
Like, I get that you want to present yourself as a diverse group of officers or a workplace.
Representing all people that you serve and protect.
Yeah, but when a man and a woman, so it's not even based on race, but when a man and a woman, this is another thing I was going to bring up too. Man and a woman join the military, right? Women can now be in combat-orientated MOSs, which means they can do the infantry, they can do the tank, and they can do all that stuff that puts them on the front line, right?
Where they haven't been traditionally allowed to because it was viewed as possibly a distraction or a hindrance to the strength of the unit because of the different levels of physical agility and cognitive and emotional differences.
So I'm not saying that women can't deal with emotional shit, but so this is my biggest opinion at the problem with that is, so if I see a man and a woman, okay, if I'm on the front lines of battle and I see a man and a woman both shot in the arm, right, exact same wound, exact same place, both suffering, and they're both sitting behind a rock, I'm not going to help the dude. I'm going to help the female, right? Because that's, as a dude, if I'm shot in the arm, yeah, I can fucking deal with it. I'll fix it myself, right? But a woman, she needs a man's help. She needs a man's strength to save her, right? So that to me is just I don't want to be put in that position to help one person over another just because of their gender.
You know what that makes me think of? First, when you said, if I get shot in the arm, fuck it, I'll deal with it, I thought of like a bullet shattering your upper arm bone and your arm's just kind of hanging there. But then I visualized that guy in the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan who's walking around and he picks his own arm up off the ground and he's still got the fucking radio in the hand. He's just looking around like, where's my fucking arm that just got blown out?
Where'd it go?
Oh, there it is. Fuck it, I'll deal with it.
Ow. Ow.
But it's one of those things where as a man, I think I could deal with that. I don't think a woman could.
Well, it's interesting that you focused on that as opposed to what conservatives want you to focus on, that you're going to be distracted by the sexual tension and her femininity, and it's going to be a rape craze, and it's going to stop you from being able to effectively complete your missions because all you're going to be thinking about is pussy.
Yeah, no,
there's one right there.
Yeah, not at all. There are several armies across the world that train They have unisex bathrooms. They have unisex sleeping quarters. They become closer in that way because it's not you're protecting that woman. You're protecting another man from another woman. You're more of a family and bonded. When you segregate people, for example, U.S. military, men and women have different changing quarters, shower quarters, sleeping quarters. Then there's that whole, hey, I don't see her all the time. I don't know what she looks like naked. She doesn't know what I look like naked. Let's see.
That's why they did that in Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Everybody was getting buck-ass naked in front of each other, and it was just a dick and titty fest.
Right. And, I mean, granted, it's a movie, but it fucking worked, right? They were a tight-knit
they
group.
They made it seem that way.
Yeah.
They got tattoos together. They fought together.
And I think that's how that's what it's like in real-world militaries who have that opportunity.
Reoccurring theme. Segregation doesn't work.
Yeah, Norwegian exchange. A couple buddies went over there, and they were saying the same thing. Guys and girls train together, bathe together, sleep. Well, not together, but they sleep in the same room. They shower in the same, and it's all just totally normal. Like, whatever. That's my sister. I don't give two shits because we fucking been in all the shit together, and then we come back here and we sit together and we fucking talk about all the shit we've been through. And I don't know. That's another
It's not a giant, like, 20-person king-size bed?
No.
There were 10 in the bed, and the little one said, move over. Move over. And they all moved over, and one fell out of bed.
So, yeah. So, back to I guess, maybe not prejudice-y so much, but the whole Black Lives Matter movement, okay? So, I don't know if you heard this story. I kind of brought it up. I think it was last week. There was a white teen, an unarmed white teen, shot by police. Okay, Zachary Hammond.
And I told you I hadn't even heard a fucking thing about it.
Yeah. He was fatally shot by police in South Carolina, right? Okay, so I encourage anyone to go look at this video. I can't pull it up right now. I really wanted to, just so we could get the audio of it. So this
he got pulled over.
He got pulled over, right? And I don't know exactly what happened before the video starts, but he can be the video clearly shows him from the dash cam footage blowing the stoplight, right? Peeling out with his truck. He's got this old beat up black truck like mine, right?
Right.
He ends up driving for about another half mile while this cop is following him with lights and sirens. Finally pulls over on the side of the road, and the cop is demanding that he show him his hands, right? Show me your hands, show me your hands. He must say it 12 times. And there's one hand sticking out of the driver window, right? The driver door opens, and he says, show me your hands, show me your hands. He finally shows both his hands to the officer, and he gets out of his truck, right? At no time did the officer say, get out of your truck and walk towards me. But he gets out of his truck, and he starts walking away. Turns his back to the officer, starts walking away. And you can see him fucking around in his waistband, lifting his shirt up, just kind of throwing his hands up in the air, probably saying, fuck you, why are you wasting my time, all this other shit. He turns around to the police officer. Meanwhile, this cop is screaming, show me your hands, stop moving, show me your hands. The kid turns around and starts walking back at this police officer. Gets about to where his truck is, 10, 15 yards in front of the squad car, and starts fucking digging in his waistband again. So what does the cop do? Shoots him. Shoots him twice, right? The kid falls to the ground on his back. He falls on his back. I think at this point in time, there are now 4 officers at the scene of this incident. They approach him, still yelling, show me your hands, because the motherfucker is still digging in his goddamn waistband, right? They shoot him 2 more times while he's laying on the ground.
Always a brilliant move to shoot somebody when they're on the ground and you've already put rounds into them.
Uh-oh, retard alert!
And, you know, that's one of the arguments that I guess I could present too, is, you know, at that point in time I wouldn't see him as a threat, but you don't know the injuries he's sustained. You don't know if he's actually got a gun on him. And he could easily shoot you through his clothes, right? Yeah. He could breach in there. It's one of those things where all you would have had to motherfucking do was show him your fucking hands and listen to him. Just like I'm sure this fucking Sterling case, what happened there? Right. First off, the dude is a felon, right? Shouldn't even have a fucking gun on him in the first place. If he would have just presented that and said, you know what, dude, yeah, I fucked up, I got this on me, what would have happened? Yeah, parole violation, whatever. But he'd be alive.
New charge,
right?
Be a felony. But yeah, he'd be alive. And then people don't want to focus on that fact that he shouldn't have a gun. They only want to focus on the fact that the cops killed him.
Right. And then the case in Falcon Heights.
With Philando Castile.
Castile. If you tell an officer you've got a fucking gun on you, don't start fucking reaching for your wallet. I don't give a shit if you're saying you're reaching for your wallet. If you say, I've got a gun on me, and you start reaching for something, what the fuck do you think the cop's going to think you're doing? Reaching for that gun.
Or at least he's going to get nervous that you might be.
Right. So it's one of those things where fucking common sense, right? If I had a gun on me, absolutely I'd tell an officer if I got pulled over, hey, just to let you know, I've got my permit to carry, and I'm armed. Here's my fucking hand, you know. The few times I've been pulled over, my keys are on the dash, both my hands are on the steering wheel, and my license and proof of insurance are already on the fucking center console.
Really?
Like there's no question. Why not?
I have my ID and my insurance card. Like my left arm's leaning out the window holding them. And then my right hand's on top of the steering wheel. On the very fucking top, so that the soonest he gets a glimpse of me beyond my shoulders in my car seat, he sees my other hands right here.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things where, dude, you know, I'm going to try to make your job easier. So, A, I get out of a fucking ticket. And B, you don't fucking
Everybody's going
get all
home.
Right. You don't get all fucking bent out of shape. So, I you know, again, I wasn't at these incidences. I don't know what happened before. I wasn't there to respond to the situation, but it's just one of those things where, you know, based on what we know and what we've even seen on the video, apparently I haven't watched the video since I heard this, but Castile had a gun on his lap, and you can see it in
it looks like it might have been the barrel resting on his leg.
Precious's video, whatever the fuck she calls herself now.
Diamond Lavish Reynolds.
Lavish.
You keep calling her Precious.
Precious.
Totally different movie.
Whatever. Like, I guess that maybe that shows that he had it out in his hand at one point. It's just...
Maybe he was going to say, look, I have it, and he was going to hold it up by the back of, by the stock.
Right.
With the barrel pointing down.
And maybe that's okay to show your friends that you have a gun like that, but to fucking... No, you shouldn't be doing that to a police officer. Another thing was that made these incidents so huge. You know, forget about this white kid who was shot. Like, that didn't make fucking headline news. You didn't know about that, right? It fucking was in the news for a couple hours, right? And then I believe it was like the day after the Texas shootings happened, or something very, 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 very close to this young kid
Nothing
getting
else
shot.
matters right now besides Castile and Dallas. I mean, up here it's all Castile. Down south it's all Sterling. So now it's even become regional. I mean, they know what happened here down south, but they're thinking of their hometown boy, who actually was from here, ironically.
Yeah, he was. Minnesota man down in Louisiana.
Here's something I'd like to address on the tactics of the officer that shot that kid. I always pull these what I would do. What if part of the issue is cops trying to maintain distance for safety with their guns drawn? What if instead we trained officers with Castile? You walk up to the car, and the second you think he's got something, you reach in and you grab his arm. You're still holding your gun with your other hand to the door. You can shoot him through the door. You've now secured his arm. And you say, I'm going to let go. I do not want you to move. Instead of just yelling, show me your hands, it's like, you have to use common sense. You can't just shock the system all the time and expect it to work. Because that's why people don't do what you're telling them to do. And they train cops that way, a constant barrage of very clear, concise orders until they obey. It's supposed to interrupt their cognitive processes so they don't think to do anything. However, at the same time, opposite end of the spectrum, they can't think to do what you want them to do because their brain's bombarded by orders. And that's why it takes them so long to respond. So the kid on the ground, right, you've already shot him, what, twice? Mm-hmm. He's laying on his back. Instead of keeping your distance and keeping your gun out, fucking strafe wide all the way around till you're at his head. Because if he's going to try to shoot you through his clothes, well, that'd be fucking incredible if he could do that with you standing up beyond his head. He'd have to bring his hands out. You're going to know what's there. So you're at a low ready. You're looking at the top of his head. You're assessing his injuries while you're giving him some directives not to move. And now you're not tempted to misinterpret some slight movement that he might partake in due to physical shock from being shot as more danger, and then shoot him again.
Yeah. No, and by all means, I totally agree. At the point of him being down on the ground, he wasn't a threat anymore. I wouldn't have perceived him as a threat anymore. Because you can see the rounds hit. I mean, both hit center mass, and the kid drops like a fucking sack of potatoes.
Yeah.
But, it's that whole mindset of these cops are going home at night. This is their job. They've got a family to go home to. Just because this little motherfucker didn't listen to a couple simple commands. I don't know.
And now these cops that shoot people have to worry about retaliation violence.
Well, they get death threats. One in Falcon Heights and the one down in Louisiana are getting death threats. Fucking
on top of other cops being shot that weren't even involved in these incidents.
Yeah, and it's just sick, man. It's fucking sick. But I don't know. It's a shady situation, but I support the officers 100% in all of these cases. And it's just like Ferguson, Jamar Clark, all those guys. Yes, there were fucking outlashes as soon as those incidents happened. But do you hear about them now? No, because we know all the fucking backstory to all that shit.
Well, there's still people that claim that Michael Brown was murdered and that the whole thing was a cover-up.
Granted, yeah.
The ballistics suggested that what the officer described was pretty much what happened, and that he didn't just get out and shoot the kid in the back.
And then the whole hands up, don't shoot thing. fucking proven that's a goddamn lie. So that pisses me off when I see hands up, don't shoot signs. That never fucking happened. Whatever. But so it's just like those things happened. The media just fucking blew them up before public knew all the backstory, all the facts. And what happened for it? Riots, looting, fucking death threats. Fucking Minneapolis was having Molotov cocktails thrown at their police stations.
That's nice.
And for what? Because this kid was a shitbag. I'm talking about Jamar Clark right now. This kid was a shitbag, beating up his girlfriend or whoever he was with at the time, sent her off in an ambulance, and then tried to get into the ambulance as it was driving away. Once he was doing that, cops said, oh, hey, you know what? Yeah, we should fucking stop you. They stop him, and he tries to take their gun away. You know what? Dude, you deserve to get shot if you're trying to take a cop's gun.
His DNA was found on the officer's gun grip. So any theory about him being handcuffed and on the ground and being shot got completely demolished. But there again, there's the racial divide. As you're calling him a shitbag, I'm thinking, God, so many people that knew him would be so pissed and call us racist for saying that.
Sure.
But that's the difference in community. And it's what's dividing whites and blacks right now. Because they don't want to deal with law enforcement. They're not going to help out. They're not going to snitch. Whereas if somebody robs me, attempts to rob me, assaults me, I'm going to fucking call the cops because I know that vigilante justice isn't going to work. On the other side of the aisle, in the black neighborhoods, what do you have? A constant cycle of violence. So people that knew Jamar Clark are always going to say, he was a good person. He didn't deserve to die. And I'm not saying he deserved to die, but if you partake in committing crimes, you're a criminal.
Yep.
You deserve to be punished. I don't value you in society because I think of people as good and bad, law-abiding and criminal. And it's not just because of the line of work we're in. It's because that's how our society is. If you break the law, you've broken a social norm, it's taboo, you're going to be charged with a crime, you're going to do some time or be on probation or go to prison or who fucking knows. Depending upon how heinous what you commit is, you might be put to death. Eventually. So everybody is up in arms that they're classifying him as a criminal. Like, why are you talking about his criminal background? That's why the cops were dealing with him that way, because he was a criminal. That's why Michael Brown got police contact, because he assaulted that fucking gas station owner guy. On video.
Fucking minutes before he was stopped by police.
And the media shows pictures of him that are like 5 and 6 years old when he's still this baby-faced fucking 11 and 12-year-old. And he was 19 goddamn years old.
Fucking what, 6'5",
he was a grown fucking man.
pounds.
He was a big
boy.
Kid. Still technically a kid.
Yeah.
Because in my eyes, you're not an adult till you're 25 and your brain stops developing. I don't care what the voting law or the drinking age is. All right? Still not a little kid.
Right.
It's not like, I forget the name of the kid in Cleveland that got shot.
Oh, with the toy gun?
Yeah. Well, the kid in Cleveland, he's waving around a gun.
Yeah.
I teach my kids, weapons aren't toys. There's lightsabers, even those. Oh, look at this cool Nerf gun. Put it down. Guns aren't toys. I wouldn't even let them play with Thor's hammer or Ninja Turtle swords and shit, because I don't want them to get comfortable thinking that even pretending with weapons is all right, because once you get that level of comfort, you're there.
Right.
So if I have somebody in my community and they're breaking the law and they point a gun at a cop and they get shot, so we're talking about a white guy, somebody, for example, that you and I might know. I'm not going to go to the police station and say, how fucking dare you kill this guy? Your authority gave you the power to kill him, and you abused your authority and killed him. The guy was committing a crime and he pointed a gun at a cop.
Yep.
Common sense. I'm thinking logically, not emotionally. Why is there such a difference in how our two communities rationalize these instances? Don't think with your heart. Think with your fucking head. Yeah, he might be your cousin, your son, your friend. I don't fucking know. It could be your daughter, your niece, your grandmother. Mm-hmm. Maybe your grandma's on the bus and she pulls out a fucking crack pipe. I didn't say what race she is, but she pulls out a crack pipe and somebody says something to her and she pulls out a switchblade and threatens him with a knife. Criminal.
Yeah. Well, just like you said earlier, accountability. It's, these people need to be held accountable for their actions regardless of race. I'll call Jamar Clark a shitbag just like I'll call the kid down in fucking the story I was just telling. I'll call him a shitbag too. Fucking listen to the cops. If you don't listen to the police officers, you're a shitbag.
Well, you're dumb, and you're only basically handing your own fate off to be decided by their power.
Right, and regardless of your race, age, gender, you disrespect a police officer, and you deserve to be punished. Whether it's getting tased, whether it's getting maced, whatever, whether it's getting shot. I get that there are stipulations. If you call an officer a dumbass, you don't deserve to get shot. I get it. But if you're threatening that cop's life, even if it's just playing with your waistband and fucking not showing him your hands, that's a huge threat. Like that. There's an interesting
to play with your waistband if you have your pants at your fucking waist and a belt on.
And there's an interesting video, another one that shows police officers resorting to their gun first. Right, they're responding to incidents, and these are all like scenarios. They're responding to incidences with this guy who's off in the corner fucking with his wallet or fucking with something, and they walk up to him and they're like, "Hey, how's it going? Hey, how's it going?" And he is able to pull a knife from his pocket, brandish that knife to them, show that knife to the police officers, and charge them before they can even get their guns drawn. Yeah. And I learned this in my permits carry class, that the average person can close 21 feet, which is that magical number that officers go off of, is about 21 feet, which is pretty fucking far, right?
Yeah.
The average person can close that distance with a knife in like 1.6 seconds, I think it is, under 2 seconds.
Yeah, if they go to a full sprint and they lunge at you.
So that's your reaction time. You have less than 2 seconds to figure out, how the fuck am I going to survive the situation? It's nuts to think about. That officer has got to deal with that on every fucking call they go to. So it's that whole, I'm going home at the end of my shift and I'm doing everything I can to do it. I'm not going to go out there and bust heads.
No.
That's not what I want. I don't want to go out there and cause trouble for other people or myself.
You want to stay out of the danger zone.
But it's again, back to these prejudices. Is it right to judge someone right away? No. It really shouldn't be. Can I say that I don't? Fuck no, I do every day. Every person I see, I instantly judge them. What are they wearing? What do they look like? How are they walking? What are they driving? Fucking, it happens. It happens all the time.
Good people are poor too.
Right, and I'm not saying that's right, but military, police academies, fucking all these correctional classes we've been to teach you to be aware of your surroundings. Right, you're just analyzing stuff. I don't. Maybe that's just the way that I analyze things, but. Again, if you're walking up on me on the same sidewalk and you're wearing something that I think is not what I would wear, I'm going to treat you different than a dude in some fitting jeans and a decent t-shirt. If you're walking up to me in a white beater and shorts, no man, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be looking at you a little bit longer. I might be taking a couple steps off to the left or right depending on where you're coming at me from, but I probably won't say hi to you. Probably won't acknowledge you unless you do it to me first. And if you do, I'm sure as hell going to say hi back. But
what do you think your jogging face looks like?
My jogging face? I think it's pretty relaxed.
Here's mine. What do I look like? Describe me.
You just look determined to just keep going. Like I would just maybe give you a head nod.
Right. A lot of people they see me and then they look away because I've got the natural resting asshole face.
Asshole face, yeah. Well, I wouldn't call it a resting asshole face. A working asshole face.
I suppose, yeah.
But no, I don't know.
So when I jog, I put people off. So I'll say, morning, in a very calm, jovial tone, as opposed to jogging by looking mean and not saying shit or just going, hi.
Yeah.
I've altered their perception completely because they might have decided, oh, he's bigger than me and he's coming towards me and I don't know him. Even though I've lived in this neighborhood for 5 years, and I'm pretty sure people should know me by now as the night jogger. Because I jog at night a lot.
Sure. Yeah, be careful, dude. Some dude... Did I tell you that gunpoint down by the river last night? That's why those squats were there. Some kid got robbed at gunpoint down by the river. That they were setting off a perimeter trying to catch him in that little block by where we were.
Dude, that was like a 9-block perimeter.
Nine-ish blocks or so. But... yeah, I don't fucking know, man. This shit's just got to stop. We all just need to get along. Why can't we be friends?
Well, also the media needs to portray things accurately and stop playing the emotional card. Because look at Diamond Reynolds. She was, this woman was so strong. And then that fucking Dennis Michael Lynch video came out, and I'm like, what a bitch!
Yeah, she was on different shows. Had a GoFundMe that raised like $52,000 in a GoFundMe account or some shit like that.
Yeah, something. She'll probably get
got paid by The View. Got paid by those other fucking shows she was on. And for what? She got exactly what she wanted. She fucking
Fame.
thought, oh my God, this is going to go viral real quick. I'm recording the hell out. Any decent human being, I don't care if you're a stranger. I don't care if the person next to you is your fucking coworker. If they're lying there dying or hurt, you fucking help them. If your first resort is pull out your phone to capture this on video, you're a fucking lunatic.
Well, here's the funny thing. She said that when the cop was ordering her to show him her hand, she's like, I'm doing it. I'm showing you my hands. I'm keeping them right here where you can see them. So she moved enough to pull the phone out,
Right.
unlock it, and hit the app.
Yeah.
As opposed to turning and putting her hands on Philando and say, are you okay? Are you alive?
Yeah.
Because I get that she'd be scared the cops got the gun out. But at that point, he already knew he fucked up. I doubt that he's going to accidentally shoot her, too.
Yeah.
And then he sees the kid in the car. Also, it's not like he's going to shoot a fucking kid, presumably. Unless he's just looking to kill people, which, oh, believe it or not, most cops are not.
Right. Well, and then even just random, just throwing this in here randomly because you talked about the kid. There was two children who were shot late last week.
Yeah.
Minneapolis. Like a 19-month-old and a 2-year-old. There were two kids in fucking car seats.
Yeah.
Were shot in like a gang-related shooting, drive-by shooting. What the fuck? Really? You're not gonna fucking these innocent little kids are now one's dead, one's scarred for life.
Yeah.
Because these jokers are running around shooting each other.
Over turf.
Over whatever.
Property,
It doesn't
over
fucking
drugs
matter.
And money. Over pride.
Yeah. Fucking take care of yourself.
Foolish pride.
Take care of your goddamn selves. Check yourselves before you rickety wreck yourselves.
That's a good place to wrap it up.
Murder.
Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It. That is at What Do We Call It. You can join our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/What Do We Call It podcast show.
I'm not racist.
It's random. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann.
And I'm Bergie.
And that's the end.